All right. This is take two of of me recording this podcast. Excuse me. I say take two because I didn't set the right settings in my recorder. That's why I'm looking at it right now to make sure it keeps going. Yeah, whole last 30 minutes just gone because I'm an idiot. Let me make sure this shit's recording. Is it recording? Cool. All right, let's get this thing going. So. Great news. Also, I'm going to be looking, I said this before, but I'm going to be looking out of the door, just making sure there's no clients coming in. I'm at the shop right now. I got some tattoos for today. Addie just texted me. I texted Addie telling her that this is what happens when she's not here to help me out. I'm basically a child. So I figured, we're going to start off with good news. We have a name for the podcast. I'm super surprised it's not taken already, but after doing some research and whatnot, it's cool. It's set. And it's going to be Constant Pressure. This is the Constant Pressure Pod. Welcome to the Constant Pressure Podcast. So now that you guys are, have ruptured eardrums, let's get this thing started. Today we're going to cover a little more of my, another side of my life is the origins of my Jujitsu training. It's going to be very heavily influenced in Jujitsu and all that stuff, and kind of relates to the constant pressure of dealing with the stressors in life and rolling and dealing with someone that's on top of you, whether it be mount, side control, and we'll get into those things. You don't have to train jiu-jitsu to understand most of this stuff. It's not going to be specifically jiu-jitsu oriented a lot of the times, however today's episode is, so buckle up. So constant pressure is something we're always taught in jiu-jitsu is realistically, it's kind of like an anaconda. I tell this to all the white belts. I tell this to the new kids that start. Constant pressure is what really destroys, it makes or breaks a person. An anaconda doesn't relieve its pressure on its prey when it's killing it. It's constantly getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So the mice or whatever is on in its grasp can go, oh, okay, I can breathe. I'm still breathing. Holy shit, I can't breathe. It's like that experiment. I forgot how long ago it was done or who did it, but if you put a frog in boiling water, it'll jump out. However, if you constantly or slowly, do minute, what's the word I'm trying to find? Sometimes I like to sound smarter than I actually am. I am a grade A moron. I use bigger words to make me feel better, even though I don't know what they mean a lot of the times. I also really hope I press record on the camera, because if not, then this is fucking stupid. But anyways, frog in the water. You put a frog in a pan, you put it on a stove, and you turn the heat up slowly, it'll stay. It won't leave or try and hop until it's dead. A lot of us do that in life. A lot of us, that we just stay until the water's too hot or we're on our last breath, and we either decide to jump out or we let it slowly kill us, no matter what it is, a job, relationship, stressors in life. You go through this at any age, and it's kind of ridiculous. Kids deal with it when their parents are forcing them to do something they don't want to do, something they really don't enjoy. Adults do it when they're at their last limb of, I guess, relationship, and they think they can't get any better than this, so let me just sit there in that water and let it boil until I'm dead. And they live a miserable life. They continue to plant their seeds in soil that's tainted, which is unfortunate. And you hear it a lot of the times. Jiu-jitsu is very, very, it's a parallel to what life is in regards to lessons and all this stuff. You can get philosophical all you want. At the end of the day, it's just grown men and women just trying to strangle each other and cuddle. Some of us just really want violent hugs. Others just enjoy the violence, which is fine. But we find ourselves a lot of times kind of getting really comfortable being uncomfortable in a negative way. And I'm not talking about waking up at 5 a.m. going to get a workout in or jiu-jitsu. I'm talking about you're in an uncomfortable position in life. You're not happy with what you're doing, or you're not happy with who you're with, or you're not happy with your situation you're in. And you sit there and you're okay with that. And instead of improving yourself, you just wallow in that self-pity. Which is kind of frustrating to myself, because I did that. I was complaining about where I was at when I could easily, I wasn't stuck. No one was holding a gun in my head and telling me, hey, you're going to be stuck doing this for the rest of your life, and don't you dare move or make improvements on your life. That's the best thing we can do about it. Is just like in jiu-jitsu, you're stuck in side control. You're not stuck. You know, you might feel stuck, but you make minor improvements, micro adjustments, and you get out. That's the jiu-jitsu teaches you. It ends. It ends when you want it to end. You can choose to suffer and not improve, or you can choose to move and get out. You control that situation. That's what makes a black belt a black belt. He's not kicking your ass because you're making stupid moves. He's kicking your ass because he's making you make those stupid moves. You think you have a choice when you roll with a black belt. You don't. He will impose his will on you, and that's what most people need to do in life is impose their will on life. Don't let life impose their will. Don't let things happen and go, oh, that's life. You know, when life gives you lemons. No, dude. Life isn't gonna give you shit. You put what you want into life, and you end up getting what you put out. You know, energy-wise. So that's a tangent. That was a long tangent. Anyways, jiu-jitsu. So started when I was 16. I didn't really start because I wanted to. It actually kind of fell in my lap, as with most things, thankfully. I'm not really good at much. I am pretty average at most. And that's one thing that I'm pretty grateful for is that things just fall into my lap. So my sister was a boxer. She loved boxing. She took boxing classes at the local community center and just loved it. So she was in it. And I was not a violent kid. I mean, I got into fights as a kid when I was, growing up, but it wasn't something that I looked for. I didn't want to be the biggest, baddest dude. I was always short. I'm 5'6". My ID says I'm 5'6". Don't question it. Don't look it up. Don't look at me and go, he is definitely not 5'6". My ID says it. The DMV lady didn't even measure me. She just asked me my height. And when I told her I was 5'6" and got away with it, I was kind of bummed I didn't go 5'7", because that would have helped out. My sister's 5'9", 2 years younger than me. My mom's 5'11". My dad's 5'10", and our Lord and Savior just looked at me and said, no, you're that's it for you. So it bees what it bees. And so unfortunately that community center stopped the boxing classes, and my sister ended up wanting to continue to pursue it. She loved it. It was awesome. She's a very violent lady, as with most Puerto Ricans. But we ended up finding a gym. It was at that time called Brevard MMA. It's no longer open, unfortunately, but I was 14 or 15, and my sister shows up for the class, not knowing what jiu-jitsu was. They did have striking. However, at the time, they were having a kids jiu-jitsu class. My sister said, sure, let's do it. She didn't understand it, and you could tell because the moment she was put in another man, like the instructor's guard or another kid's guard, she was uncomfortable. And for those that don't know, guard is when your opponent is on their back and their legs are wrapped around your waist. It's an uncomfortable position for new people. It's a very hard position to kind of bring across to new people and say this is a good position, you want to be in it. So she was uncomfortable, and my mom didn't understand at the time, and she was also a little uncomfortable. She didn't like it. However, I looked at it and went, this is for me. Not because of the guard, because I thought it was cool and badass. Enough said. So don't worry about it. But I got hooked. I got hooked right away. I trained all the time. Unfortunately, like most people that have kids in jiu-jitsu or have jiu-jitsu memberships now, they're not cheap. My family at the time, my family was my mom and my sister. My mom at the time, we didn't have much money, which wasn't a bad thing. I didn't look at it at that time as we didn't have money. It was just, it is what it is. I think that's the good thing about growing up and the way I did, which will be a later episode. But there was no rich for me, so I didn't understand what poor was. So that was just normal. That was just, I didn't complain about it. There was nothing like I was like, oh, I'm poor. It's just, hey, we can't have this today. Hey, we can't afford jiu-jitsu. It's expensive and you're hurting yourself. So if you want it, you get a job and pay for it yourself. And that was the best lesson I was ever taught as a kid. My mom's a bad bitch. She's cool as fuck. She's one tough cookie. The things that she's done and accomplished in her life with what she's had surprises me to this day. Her strength is next to none. So she does that. She slaps me with a little bit of life. And she taught me early on, because I complained. I was like, I don't want to work. I don't want to do it. Like, I just want to do jiu-jitsu. And she's like, so be it. Like, it costs money. You're at the age where you can get a job, make the money and do jiu-jitsu. You can complain and not do jiu-jitsu, or you can work and do jujitsu. You get to choose. You're in charge of the outcomes of the situation. And thankfully, I got a job at ChickfilA. They hired me. I don't know why. And I almost got fired a couple times. Not saying my pleasure is a fucking mess. Like, if I said you're welcome once, and you would have thought the cow gods would have come down to smote me, strike me. They would have beat the shit out of me because I didn't say my pleasure. But yeah, I didn't say my pleasure once, and yeah, that was no good. I lost my cow spots that day. If you do good, you get cow bucks or spots. I don't even know what they're called anymore, but you can use them to buy points or buy food. I used to get cookies all the time. I was a fat piece of shit. But I didn't get the cookie, or I didn't get the cow spots that day, and then they ended up finding out that I had two like different socks. They weren't the same black socks, and this dude, my manager. This is so funny that I'm thinking about this now. I completely forgot. My manager at the time was some braced up dork, and he was such a dick. I couldn't stand this guy. I wish I remembered his name so I can call him out. Not that he's listening. Or you know what? He's listening. Fuck you. He grabbed me by my shirt. Dude, he grabbed me by my shirt and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "What is going on right now?" He's like, "Those are two different socks. Get on the same socks." Like, he made such a big deal and he wrote me up. So I got written up by, almost got fired for the socks. So ChickfilA don't fuck around. But yeah, insane. Again, tangent, sorry. But yeah, get a job. I don't get fired, and I ended up being able to pay for my jiu-jitsu, and I got hooked. I found a gym local to me because Brevard MMA was unfortunately closed. It's called ATT Rockledge. It's an American Top Team. And at the time, it was owned by Wade Rome and another black belt. And Wade, he's one of the OGs of American Top Team. He's under Ricardo Laborio. Him and there's another black belt at the gym, Lebo. Most people's first day in jiu-jitsu is they get humbled by the little guy. It shows, jiu-jitsu is the little guy winning. That's how Helio Gracie, that's Horion, that's all the great. That's what they did. That was the first UFC, was the little guy winning, based off technique. On my first day at the gym, I was the little guy, and the smallest one there was 5'9" and weighed 190. Stocky farmer dude. Called him the tortoise because he had a shell back, and you punched him and it didn't. Once he rolled to turtle, which is you're up in a defensive position. They call it turtle because it looks like a turtle going into its shell. He would block punches with his face. You punch him and he would purposely just like smash his head into your fist, like just a sign of dominance. But he was the shortest one there. The second biggest one after that was Chase Rome, Wade's son, who is a 6'3" ex-defensive lineman from the University of Arkansas. I think, Chase, don't fuck me up if you're hearing this and I mess it up. All I know is he says Huskers a lot. He was a stud. He's still a stud athlete, man. That guy, we've known each other since I was 16. And he's been there throughout my jiu-jitsu journey. Since he was a blue belt when I started, and he's a black belt now. He got his black belt in 5 years, I believe. Incredible dude, incredible athlete. After him was Terrence, who is a 4-stripe purple belt now, probably 230. Just a big, muscular guy. As if, like, Michelangelo sculpted him out of, like, just marble. A unit of a guy. And then after that was JR, who's the tallest. He was 6'7", maybe 230, I think, bro. Also, if you're listening, sorry. And there was another guy, Mike Paredes. Mike, he was a blue belt at the time. He's a black belt now. He's the strongest one we have at the gym, and he's also not that big. But the first thing I tell him was we were stretching, and he's like, "Oh, my hip's very sore." And I'm like, "Why is it sore?" He's like, "There's a bullet in there." I'm like, "Fuck. All right, that's what we're doing." Yeah, he was an ex-Marine, deployed multiple times, and shot multiple times. Also, like, gangbanger extraordinary. Like, he's a gnarly dude. One of my closest friends. He's like an older brother to me. Yeah, that's Mike Paredes. He's a motherfucker. He used to be the guy that would like just bench press people off of him and thinking that's smart until he got good at jiu-jitsu, and then he fucked us up. Just messed everyone up. Also, disclaimer, I'm going to be cursing. I'm an adult. I'm going to try not to, but if your kid listening to this, turn it off before I tell your mom. So, what's it called? Is that someone coming? I hope not. That'd be shitty if it is. But they just did a weird drive-by. So that was my first day. It was a bunch of grown-ass, big, burly men just destroying me in side control. And it really showed me that I'm a weak, useless human being, and I need to do something about it. So I was hooked. Trained twice a day, every day, until I got my blue belt in 8 months. I was a blue belt for like 4 years. Same pace training. Competed a lot. Competed at Worlds. Competed at Zapatero. I competed everywhere. That's like once I made that jump, I realized that I started using Naga and Copa, which are like lower level tournaments, as like proving grounds for myself, which is also a pro tip. If you compete in something I did, actually ends up leading to me quitting jiu-jitsu, was I took competition like it was ADCC, which is beneficial if you want to be an ADCC world champ and you train every day. If you have a full-time job and there's other people on there and they're just hobbyists that train for the fun of it, don't fuck it up for them. Don't do it. It's jiu-jitsu, bro. If you're not gonna be you're not gonna be a world champ unless you put in the hours and time of world champs. And even they don't roll like a douchebag. So, but yeah, you take competitions too seriously. I cut weight for my first tournament. It was Naga. No, it wasn't even Naga. It was Copa when I first started out in Lakeland. And I went against this dude. I was a white belt for 2 months, and he was a white belt for 2 years. And bucked me up. So, and he's like lives at the gym, so he was training every day, and it was a rough one. So after that, I still was hooked. I mean, that's what kind of shows that we're messed up. In tattooing, I say it all the time. Like, people who think tattoos are the therapy is a red flag, because they love pain, and then I forget that I'm fighting with grown men, simulating murder, and I love pain. Like, it's a double entendre. I think someone look it up. I'd have Addy look it up if she was here. But yeah. And then fast forward, I'm a purple belt now, and unfortunately, I took 6 months off of 6 months, a long time off of jiu-jitsu, because I treated it so seriously. I was competing every month. Oh my God, the day before I got my purple belt was like one of the worst days of my life. I lost a tournament in maybe 15 seconds to Court Warshaw. That's his Instagram name. I think is his real name. But he's a great dude, great competitor. He still competes to this day. But then the next day I get promoted to purple belt, and I was like, that was the most undeserving time of my life in jiu-jitsu, and it's gonna get worse for sure. The more belts you get, the better you get, the more undeserving you feel of the promotion. But fucking sucked, dude. It was a hard feeling, and then so here I am losing a tournament, getting promoted to purple belt. I hate saying it. It sounds pretentious, but I deserve the belt because, again, weight doesn't promote people that don't deserve it. I put in the time. I put in my effort. It was just a bad day. I competed heavily. I won multiple times. And then right after getting my purple belt, I competed. I think straight away I went to Oklahoma, competed at the Oklahoma Open. I lost 27-0. That was my first. I went against what's his name? Rafael Lovato or something like that. Lovato. Either way, he's got an incredible gym. Bellator champ. He's a stud. His students are crazy. And I just kept competing. I was hungry, but I wasn't fulfilling what I wanted. I didn't even know what I wanted. I was still in law enforcement then, and I had a mixed review of, like, I had to be an alpha guy. There was no hobby jiu-jitsu for me, because if I couldn't, there's no hobby. It was either I was all in or I wasn't. And that's where it kind of, like, it ruined it for me. I felt like I needed to live up to some standards, and I felt like I was living up. I wasn't doing jiu-jitsu for me. I was doing jiu-jitsu for others, you know? I was doing jiu-jitsu for my coach. I was doing jiu-jitsu for the department. I was doing jiu-jitsu because I had to live up to that standard of being the jiu-jitsu guy. And I was like, fuck this, you know? Once I left law enforcement and I was fully into tattooing, I was like, I need to focus on this. And then I used that mindset from jiu-jitsu being all in towards tattooing, and it kind of, like, leveled everything out for me. And it took me away from a spot to rethink what my value in this sport is. And you forget that. And I learned this from Ricardo Laborio, a legend. Look this guy, look him up. Hopefully I can have him as a guest on this show one day. An amazing guy, an amazing representation of what this art and sport is. He says it perfectly. Jiu-jitsu isn't about the medals. And this is from a guy who started jiu-jitsu in Florida. Brazilian top team, American top team, he founded these and made the best fighters. It's not about the medals in the sport. It is about treating people with kindness. It is about welcoming others, no matter race, religion, creed, what orientation. welcoming them into your home and realizing that we are all one when we're on the mats, because the mats do not care about any of that stuff. The mats just care about whether or not you're putting in the time to be better. And not be the best. Be the best in the gym, sure, but be better than you were the day before. Because if you're not improving to be better than the day before, then you're just degrading yourself because of you're just never going to live up to that expectation. If you measure yourself off of yesterday, minor improvements. If you measure yourself from the day you started, you're leaps and bounds ahead of where you would be. He's the one that I heard say, where it's like, when you started jiu-jitsu, you wished you were where you're at right now. You could only have dreamed about where you're at right now, and you're constantly living that dream of accomplishing your goal, because jiu-jitsu isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. Wade says it all the time. It's not about who's the best, it's about who's there. For those of you that have trained a long time, you know a lot of people that you started with that aren't still there to this day, that have quit, that have left, that have done it, for life or whatever, but there's always an excuse as to you can find a million excuses to not train, to not continue, but as long as you find the one to continue to train, and that one is just being a better you. And if you can constantly evolve as a person, if you can constantly evolve and build an environment where everyone's welcome, that's it. And people that I've trained with know, like, they knew who I was, they knew what I did, especially during those times where, like, no matter who I was, because of my uniform, they hated me. I was rolling with felons, I was rolling with lawyers, I was rolling with doctors, I was rolling with dudes in the military, I was rolling with artists. Even now, like, you go to a jiu-jitsu room, you'll find, throw a rock and you'll find someone with the weirdest job. You'll roll with tier 1 operators, you'll roll with the average mom, or no mom's average, but a soccer mom. You'll roll with a D1 wrestler. You'll roll with, which is always the hardest role. I hate those. You'll roll with a pilot. At our gym alone, we have a pilot, we have an Air Force, we have multiple people in the Air Force because the base is nearby. We have doctors, we have surgeons, we have law enforcement guys that are still in now, retired dudes. We have people with rough pasts. It's a place where it really does form a cohesive family. It's like the Addams family. Everything's so weird and different, and you don't think it meshes well, but it does at the end of the day. Jiu-jitsu is about family. Jiu-jitsu is about love. Jiu-jitsu is about kindness. It's about welcoming people, and it's about accepting them for who they are, and it's about being happy and having fun each and every day. Because without that, then life's shitty. And if life is shitty for you, you're damn well sure you're making it shitty for someone else. And that's a waste of your time, and it's selfish of you to do it for someone else. Make life better for you so you can make it better for others. And that's the most selfish thing you could do. Being selfish makes it better for others. In that sense, is if you're happy, other people are going to see that and go, holy shit, why is he so happy? And you tell them, oh, dude, I've been training, I've been getting my ass kicked, I've been doing this, and that. And they're like, fuck, let me join, We always talk shit about CrossFitters, but if you walk up to a jiu-jitsu guy, and he will not shut up about jiu-jitsu and how great it is, It's hard. It's an ego thing. You have to check your ego at the door. Because if you don't, you're going to hate it. That's why people hate it. It's because they didn't check their ego, and they're like, oh, I should have beat this guy's ass, right? They find an excuse as to why they lose. And those are the ones that don't last long in jiu-jitsu. The ones that find excuses for why they lose and that find reasons as to why they didn't just continue on are the ones that leave. Because they can't take it. They can't take losing. They have such a high ego. They have such a high tolerance for they just love talking about, like, to themselves and loving themselves, and in a way that's not beneficial to others, that kind of, like, I might be being a hypocrite in that aspect, but you get guys that come into the gym and they don't humble themselves out. And I'm not talking about the guy that's saying, like, hey, I'm the most humble man out there. That's an oxymoron. If you're the most humble man out there, you wouldn't be saying you're the most humble man out there. It's a hard sport. It's difficult. You suffer. And it's the best choice you could ever make for yourself and others. So on that note, I'm going to end it at that. Still don't know why people are listening. I have a lot to learn. Thank you guys for listening. If you have any questions, just drop them below. Don't know at what rate I'm going to be releasing these. I might get guests on here soon. I'm going to be going to ADCC to tattoo some guys, and I won't be tattooing at ADCC. We'll just be enjoying Gordon and Andre Galvao and witnessing history in the making. So we'll probably do an episode out there and an update on that. So thank you guys for watching. And if you're watching, thank you guys for listening if you are. God bless you guys if you're listening, because my voice is terrible and I can't stand it. And on that note, Constant Pressure Podcast, episode 2 is done. I'll see you guys later.
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather.